Sports games. Why not just go outside and play the real thing? You fucking idiot. Oh yeah, let me go and find 21 of my closest friends, hire out a stadium for a couple of hours at any given day and hope no one else is using it, hire a ref or two, get thousands of people to fill up the bleachers so I can experience the real deal, and then win 70-0 with over 600 passing yards and 10 passing touchdowns. Or I can just do that on Madden with Patrick Mahomes. I want to take you back to the year 2012. Joseph Kony is public enemy number 1. Everyone is counting down the days to December 21st because that's when the Mayans told us the world was ending. And not a single person can answer the simple question, what does the fox say? But beyond all that, the world of video games is far different than what we see today, especially the world of sports games. It seems like before 2012, there was actually a certain amount of care being put into each game released every year. They were far from perfect, sure, but if you go back and actually play these games, it's quite obvious to see there was a certain level of care that is just not present today. You see, over a decade ago, the only way EA and 2K could make money off these games was that $60 price point up front. One purchase at GameStop and that was it. No consistent stream of additional content being shoved down your throat, no bug fixes, no updates. You had your complete game at launch. Crazy by today's standards, I know. NBA 2K11 was all about Michael Jordan. Fueled by an absolutely electric intro, some fun challenges designed around Michael Jordan's career, and a very engaging My Career mode, 2K11 really made you feel like Michael Jordan, and because of that, I spent hundreds of hours in that game as a middle schooler. And if you can remember it, Madden was in a similar boat. You see, up until 2005, they did not have the monopoly on the NFL franchise like they do today. They had to compete with 2K, and NFL 2K5 is still considered one of the best football games of all time. So the competition was real. They had to improve every year because 2K was selling a product that was just as good, if not better, and for cheaper. Be a Superstar mode was a lot of good fun. Franchise mode used to have these weekly shows that would recap the performance of your team as well as every other team in the league. You used to be able to fully customize your own team, create it from scratch, and not have to pick from a select amount of cities and pick from 3 different generic uniforms that you don't even like. With the recent release of Madden 24, it's more clear now than ever that EA's care for these games has completely faded. Faded in exchange for a much quicker and more effective way of earning revenue. This is how microtransactions ruin sports games. It all starts with a little game from an indie developer in 2006 titled Oblivion. DLC wasn't a new concept, but it usually meant something that added hours of gameplay to the core game. Oblivion is an example of this. The Shivering Isles DLC added a whole new map to the game and added about 10 hours worth of gameplay to the core game. But the second piece of DLC that Bethesda would add to Oblivion would go on to change the way games are made. So what was that second piece of DLC? Well, it was horse armor. Yeah, horse armor. For $5, you could increase the health and speed of your horse. At the time, fans of Oblivion thought this was absolutely ridiculous. $5 for a glorified cosmetic? Who would buy this? But ultimately, this piece of DLC would be an impending omen for what was to come in the world of video games. Microtransactions would soon appear in sports games with the release of Ultimate Team in FIFA 09. Starting off as a $10 expansion, Ultimate Team would soon become a fully integrated game mode in FIFA and Madden 12, a game mode EA has used to milk their fans of every last penny. Ultimate Team is a game mode where you create your own team through packs of players that you have to purchase through EA. These card packs, costing real-world money, offer an incentive for players of these game franchises to buy more into the series. You see, the more packs you buy, the more likely you are to get the best players in the game. So, if you want to be better than your buddies or strangers online, you gotta buy more packs. And this business model has only done wonders for EA. I mean, I'm talking a full empire here. And EA drops packs for any given event in the sports world. You've got your teams of the week, teams of the season, teams of the year, man of the match, holiday cards, legend cards, green cards. It goes on and on and on and on and on. If there's an opportunity to grab some cash, EA will be there no matter what. Eventually, 2K Sports realized what EA was doing and employed a similar model in their games. My Team is 2K's alternative to Ultimate Team. Instead of earning skill points like in the old 2K games, nowadays you gotta earn VC or virtual currency to upgrade your player. And in these new 2K games, they really urge you to spend a decent amount of real-world money on this VC so you can go online and use your My Player on the blacktop game modes. Because if you don't and you try to play online, well, you'll just be screwed because someone will have spent $200 to already be 99 overall the first week in. Now, admittedly, these online game modes can be some really good fun. There's a reason why some of the top YouTubers and Twitch streamers got their start in these online sports games. And yeah, it's really fun to have a game that all your friends can look forward to playing when it comes out. But the more you look into these newer games, the more you realize that they're simply a shell of what they once were. In February of 2009, EA released a statement saying they had lost over $600 million in Q4 2008. In November of that year, GameStop revealed that EA had cut an additional 1,500 jobs from creative and writing teams. This would be the sign of what was to come for EA. As more and more years passed, the less personality these games had. The presentation in Madden 10 was all about the Super Bowl between the Cardinals and the Pittsburgh Steelers, but now the presentation and UI of these games is the exact same year in and year out. It's hard to differentiate one year from the other. And there's one game in the series that has marked the franchise since, Madden 15. This game saw the introduction of the wide receiver system. With this system, instead of a wide receiver being completely computer controlled, now you can make a split-second decision on what type of catch you wanted your receiver to make. A yards after the catch, a possession catch, or an aggressive catch. Now, you might be thinking, why does this matter? The game is 8 to 9 years old after all, so why should I care? Well, it was the last innovation in gameplay Madden has made. It's been 10 years and the game has been practically the same, and no one seems to have an issue with that. I feel like I'm going insane here. Instead of improving the core gameplay, EA likes to remove old game modes in previous games, only for them to repackage it in new ones. Even the graphics in these old games look way better than what we get today. The grass and lights looked much better in Madden 10. The player models weren't so good, but they were passable for the time. Opening shots of fans outside of the stadium are now nowhere to be seen in Madden 24. Nowadays, Madden isn't an NFL simulation at all. It's an arcadey mess. I mean, as soon as you open the game, an Ultimate Team promotion is shoved down your throat. And it's because of these microtransactions that the modern Maddens have lost the personality they once had. Nowadays, 2K's My Player, My Career, whatever you want to call it, it's much different than what I remember growing up. Instead of focusing on the experience of rising through the ranks of the NBA and someday becoming the best player like it should be doing, My Career now forces you into this weird narrative and these buggy ass open world for no reason other than to milk every last dollar you have. I mean, who asked for this open world? Also, these cutscenes are some of the worst I've ever seen in a video game ever. Like, really, how is any of this improving the core gameplay? Nowadays, instead of actually earning the skills you need to upgrade your player, you can just buy that the first day the game comes out. When comparing this experience to 2K11's My Career mode, it's night and day. In these games, there's no VC, there's just skill points, and you earn those skill points by playing games, going through the combine, and practicing in drills. If you want an engaging experience, you have to make the player feel as though they've earned everything. And it's because of virtual currency and microtransactions in general that this has been lost in every sports game. The future of sports games is bleak. It's an endless cycle with these developers. They underdeliver on their promises. People complain online about how buggy and broken these games are. And then EA releases a statement saying next year's game is make or break. They've got to learn from their experiences or whatever. And the core single-player game is going to get improvements. And the NBA 2K franchise has only followed suit. Back in the day, I remember these games were like an event whenever they released. And the personality and challenges in every new 2K game made it feel imperative for me to buy the next one. Now, it's more difficult than ever to justify the purchase of the next 2K game. No one wants to shill out $70 for a glorified reskin, especially if they have to pay $200 to even be slightly competitive online. And in a world where free-to-play is the norm now for online games, this business model is simply unsustainable and outdated. It doesn't make sense. It'll be interesting to see what 2K can do with their new NFL arcade game, despite Madden basically being that now. And with a new NCAA football game expected to release within the next couple of years, it'll be interesting to see what these new football games can do to shake up the genre. In an ideal world, the online modes of these video games would simply become a free-to-play game, similar to Fortnite, where it's constantly updated as every year passes. Have a battle pass that gives out packs every week. That would be much better. Meanwhile, the single-player experience is a realistic simulation of the sport in question that longtime fans of the series can feel good about buying year in and year out. I mean, there's a reason NCAA 14 costs the same as a down payment on a house. This game has heart and soul that modern sports games simply don't have. The current state of sports games is all thanks to microtransactions. Who knew that some horse armor from almost 20 years ago would change the way sports games are played today? Thanks, Bethesda, you did this. It's no surprise why gaming companies such as EA and 2K have such a terrible reputation in the industry. Their business models are insanely greedy, and the staggering decline in quality over the past 10 to 15 years only proves this. It's time for sports games to make a serious change. Going back and playing all these old games, I thought they held a special place in my heart because nostalgia, but these games felt like they actually had care being put into them. Like the teams behind them actually really cared about these franchises and wanted to make the next game that much better than the last. A more concerted focus on the single player would return these games to what they once were, a true appreciation for the sport in question, instead of some soulless cash grab made by some company who doesn't care at all about their fan base. Because I'm not dealing with this anymore.